discuss a very interesting topic called digital assets and family offices navigating the future of investment. This topic is really very interesting and very new, at least for me. We want to explore how to identify investment opportunities in blockchain and digital assets, how to manage risk and volatility, and what is the future outlook of digital assets. Please allow me to welcome Mrs. Helen Panova.
NEOM is first of all a real estate agency that is developing a region that is as big as Belgium in the north of Saudi Arabia. And I think because of the communication, it was all exciting and all. I must insist on the fact that it is a multi-generational project. So the line will be built, it will just take longer than we would all wish. I think it's, and obviously in the frame of
investment and acquisitions.
Absolutely, in the frame of investment, we're looking at all innovation that can foster and facilitate the ownership of assets, the management of assets. The line is a three-dimensional city. So the question is, how do you own the land? How do you own the walls? How we do the tokenization, and it might be a very good theme for the discussion around here. And we are not investing yet because I think it's way too early because the technology is moving very fast. But we're definitely looking at all the innovation that is happening place in tokenization specifically for the real estate management.
Okay, that's good. Mr. Maher, what is the long-term potential for digital assets? I mean, is it worth investing now in, for example, cryptocurrencies? Are we late, or it's just the start?
If you look at the market size of all the money markets we have today, the same money market is about $120 trillion. You've got bond market about $330 trillion. You've got collectibles and cars about $18 trillion. You've got gold, $16 trillion. Your cryptocurrency market on a good day is about $4 trillion. It's a very small amount now. And remember, all the other markets I mentioned, they did not exist, they were zero. So similarly now, cryptocurrency market as well, they're also relatively very small. So it's up to you to make a decision whether you want to miss it, like what you probably missed in the gold era, which is going to almost up to $3,000, or other markets that never existed that you said, oh, no, it's too late. So not to put the formal thing fear in you, but it's a market, it's worth investigating at least. Investigate it. Find out what this market does, what does it offer, what's its long potential. Indeed, it's very volatile today. Luckily, the Bitcoin has at least made it above $100,000 a few weeks ago. It's a little bit down now. That's fine, that's understandable. But the potential is very high. I'm not saying like what 𝗙𝗵 comes and says the potential is $500,000 or $1 million. I'm saying it has potential, and everybody would echo the same thing. So there's nothing wrong in investing a small amount of fund. If you look at, for example, there was a survey done in the US, in the financial institutions, the top 500, they invested anything between 1% to 5% of their portfolio now in the digital assets overall. 60% of the people who invested in the survey, they invested more than what you call 1%. Another 2-3 years, those people who responded saying it will have also a substantial asset class, as an asset class in our books. So if the financial institution is looking at it, and you see some regulatory reforms are happening, that means there's an understanding. I mean, when you come and see ETFs being on an exchange rate being listed for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and when you have something like BlackRock also investing heavily, they just put in $120 billion, $20 billion, I should say, sorry, $1 billion for that. It's something is really happening. If you're really skeptical, just don't study it.
True. But don't you think, for example, BlackRock are playing a bit in the market? They buy whenever they want, and they sell whenever they want, and they play with the market up and down.
See, good thing is the market is very transparent. There's a lot of websites that can go and see how long they've been holding their positions. So they actually held the position for a very long time. So it's not that they're buying and selling. Of course, there's nothing wrong in doing and making profits. So you're profit taking like they do. So if the case is like that, if the profit taking is really bad, then you should not be investing anything in Apple. Do you know why?
Because they own it.
No, because the biggest investor in Apple cashed out almost every single penny of that, right? So, which is one of the fifth, sixth richest man in the world, the Berkshire Highway guys I've been talking about. So, everyone has a different strategy. The beauty thing about the market, not everybody gonna be aligned to the same thing. Imagine every one of us says we would like to buy, who's gonna sell? Or the opposite, if everybody gonna buy, everybody gonna sell, who's gonna buy? So the good thing about the market, you've got people who are believing in a certain, depending on their strategy, some will buy, some will sell, and that's how the market works.
Thank you. Mr. Walid, from your experience, what is the biggest risk in investing in this digital currency and digital assets?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here, and then this is the 5th anniversary. Happy to be here, and thank you for Sheikh Abdulaziz and the team, and thanks for having us with you. Actually, like always, I like to discuss what's happening in UAE and in the Gulf region. Right, the risk that will come in the digital assets is the uncertainty. Like people are always scared, worried to be in this market, and they don't know what they can face. And actually, the government here, they face this by shaping some organization and institutions like VARA, for example. We just had in this discussion a while ago. This is a virtual asset regulatory authority, and then you have an Abu Dhabi global market. So all this makes the people more comfort just to start something in this market, right? Definitely, we all heard about it. It happened to our friends like this. Some crying about this cyber thing and all that stuff. So, but it's still, this cannot avoid us to start something. And the maturity level is different from individuals and the companies. You can find some people are very advanced, and some people just read the newspaper about this. Some people even don't know what is the meaning of digital assets.
True.
So, but being here in Dubai, in UAE, I feel you are very comfort just to start, and then adopt, and growing adoption also is there. Like now, again in Abu Dhabi in real estate, now they are allowing, this happened in February, they make a lot of strategic deals to allow you buying assets through digitally, and that makes it more easy. Right? And many people are preferring to do this because of the advantage. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Alan, I would like you first to tell us more about your company, and then how can you identify long-term investment in digital assets and blockchain technology?
Great, thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here. I want to thank the private office for hosting myself and my team. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Look, Black Lake is a company that is at the forefront of call it sourcing assets, aggregating assets, and through tokenization, distributing assets, right? And so when we think about the blockchain, think of it as sort of like an infrastructure solution, right? Kind of like a highway. And think of the assets that are going through the pipes that form the blockchain as sort of the cars. And based off of that, based off of the different types of assets or different cars that go through this highway, there are different experiences. And so what we spend a lot of time on at Black Lake is perfecting the process of sourcing assets, right? Because just as you were saying, there are no bad assets, there are just bad prices, right? And within that vein, as we think about sourcing assets, we want to make sure that they're quality assets, that they're priced appropriately, that they've been reviewed, that they're chain ready, and they are therefore aggregated with scale, and then ultimately find their way onto a chain and are delivered and monitored and create additional liquidity. Now, all of that said, the long-term prognosis, to your question, comes back to, look, at the end of the day, with any of these solutions, we need to think about who is our customer, what problems are we solving, right? So investors, what do investors care about? They care about diversification. Are the assets that I am sourcing well diversified? Are they easy to get access to? Does tokenization, as a for instance, solve the fundamental problem of getting access to assets I wouldn't otherwise have the ability to get access to, or are otherwise hard to get access to, right? So diversification, ease, can I see and suss out the returns, right? That's obviously, the show me the money concept, which is, okay, I want to have access to the asset, I want it to be easy, and I have to be able to understand that there are very clear returns, that I can touch the asset through the chain, and that ultimately, putting all of that together, I have quality assets, right? And that is sort of like, some of the educational concepts we were talking about earlier, which is the journey of assets through the pipe onto the chain matters a lot. How did those assets get there? Have they been reviewed appropriately? Have they been priced appropriately? Is there sort of provenance? And is the story well understood? And if we can get there, and we've spent a lot of time thinking about it at Blacklight, I think that there's a really great story there, and it's really exciting, particularly for the GCC, because just like many of the other people have said earlier today, we are at sort of the precipice of tokenization. GCC, as Waleed and I were talking about earlier, has spent a lot of time trying to be at the forefront there. You are very open-minded in that regard. And therefore, to the extent that we can perfect those key processes, right? Diversification, ease, returns, quality, to the extent that we can do that, I think there's a really great opportunity to make this region a powerhouse.
Thank you. Mrs. Helen, I want to go back to you. In NEOM, what are the strategies for investing in digital assets? Since you are planning, as you mentioned before, how are you planning to do it?
Thank you for asking. So let me focus not on the cryptocurrencies, but on the tokenization and ledger situation, because I think that's what our primary focus is.
Perfect.
And what we're looking for is to decentralized ownership, liquidity, and speed. And I think those three, this is nothing new. It's we've been through that 30 years ago when the shares and equity market were speed up. And I think that's exactly what's happening. And so I like the idea of the asset that is still very anchored in a real economy. So yes, cryptocurrency is a bit of a speculative tool, but there is also very much underlying concept of how do we make sure that in the world where there is a lot of insecurity, specifically internet-related, all the data can be basically misused in any manner. How do we make sure that it's there? How we make sure that your ownership will be stolen? How we make sure that your car will be always your car and that obviously it goes for your house as well?
Yeah, this is interesting, especially that NEOM is an asset, a real asset organization. To move it to digital assets, it has to be done with a secure manner.
Absolutely, and I think what's very important is to do this on any green field that is coming up.
And do you think it is necessary to tokenize an asset, or what's the value add if you tokenize it?
Transactionality. It's very easy. I think we're all financial specialists here. The quicker you can rotate your assets, the cheaper you can rotate your assets, the better it is for you.
Thank you. Mr. Maher, how do you see digital asset influencing traditional business models in the UAE and in the Gulf region?
First, I think in terms of retail, we've got the highest penetration in terms of people owning digital assets in UAE. It's about 43%. The closest is 20% in the US. These are last numbers. I was yesterday speaking in a forum where I had only in front of me, all the hedge funds in front of me, saying, coming from, flocking from everywhere in the world. And we were talking about and one of the things we were talking about was digital assets, but the talk was about investment and alternative investment. So this becomes a very alternative investment. So going back to what you said, how do we diversify our portfolio? By the way, this is not new for family businesses. If you speak to a lot of family businesses in the Far East, and even the European market, even the US, they've already allocated the digital assets into their portfolio. It's already happened, done. As a matter of fact, I know a family office in Hong Kong. They're only doing digital assets. Can you believe that? Oh yeah, they're into hiding the money. They're not like Michael Stair. Michael Stair is like $128 billion, or $180 billion. It's like really high up there. He's like sleeping, dreaming only Bitcoin. That's it. So I think it's going to be, humbly speaking, it's going to be a game changer. And I think family offices, if they don't look at it, they're going to be probably missing an opportunity. And that's what we don't want to be at that cycle. Luckily, UAE is coined as the capital of cryptocurrencies, by the way. What Walid has mentioned, 𝗲𝗁, and the CEO of 𝗲𝗁 was yesterday with us on the panel as well. We were talking to them. The people who were with us in the panel, they were actually saying if it was not for 𝗲𝗁, we would have not achieved what we achieved in UAE today. Why? Because the regulators over here are very open. They do not come up with regulations themselves. They speak to market experts and see what the required is there. So they build guidelines around them because they also want to protect you as an investor. They want to protect those people who are setting up these companies as well. And accordingly, how this is the regulatory framework is actually, I would say, permeating. So it's an ongoing process. You cannot have one regulation saying you have that. It can't be possible. You have to keep on with the evolution of technology itself. You said it's evolving very, very quickly, right? So you have to also keep the pace, and that's where you need to be. So both AGM representation over there, the FSA was there, the CEO of the FSA was there as well. So everybody was there saying that they are collaborating for the back door. I mean, it seems to be that way because they want to make sure that even the businesses over here start looking at it.
Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Allen, beyond cryptocurrency, what are the most promising investment area in the blockchain ecosystem? Tokenization, NFTs?
Yeah, no, I would say quite clearly. I mean, look, there was a comment earlier today saying, "Oh, hey, investment bank ABC and investment bank DEF are involved in tokenization, and isn't that really interesting?" And yeah, it is really interesting. And I think you talked about, that large private equity firm that I won't mention. But look, the fact that they're involved and the fact that you couch them as predatory, I think for the investors in the crowd, I think you should all take note of that and understand that if they're doing it for a reason. And it's quite likely the fact that it is hugely in their economic interest, and newsflash, it is in your economic interest to start looking at tokenization. Because what tokenization is, right, at the heart of it, is a wholesale approach to distribute assets, right? So if we think about the asset gathering sort of life cycle as sourcing, aggregation, and distribution, right? Tokenization is at the back end, but it is indeed the tail that wags the dog. And so why that's important is given that asset gathering and sourcing are sort of at the end, or sorry, at the beginning of the asset creation life cycle. What tokenization does is it informs what assets get created, by whom, what the eligibility is, and at what price, right? So think of how tokenization all of a sudden informs how liquidity is created, what assets get created, and how people can drive different assets at different prices and price assets most effectively.
Very interesting, yeah.
I'm assuming we're talking about tokenization. We're all familiar with tokenization, correct? Who's not familiar? Who's familiar? Okay, how come? The non-familiar didn't know raise their hands. Familiar only you. That's not possible. You can't be on the fence. Okay.
Give us your brief.
Let me explain very quickly, right? If you heard the map, which is one of the last developers in UAE, last month actually, they announced a worth of $1 billion of tokenization of their assets, collaborating with a company called 𝗙𝗃𝗃, which is a Hong Kong-based company. So what is it? Simply, if you go to, let's say, a property, a villa, which is worth $1 million dirham, you just cut it into 10 pieces. I'm just giving you an example. It could be 100 pieces as well. So you take that one piece of the 100, and now you can sell it. So you can become an owner. So if you could not afford to buy a villa for 100, I'm giving you a very simple example. There are villas for 100 million dirhams. So we can tokenize that as well. So if you cut it, it's really worth it to tokenize it. So you get a token of that villa, so you become a part owner of that assets in that class, right? Now, any rental income come, let's say it is getting rented, so you get a share of that to you. So you become easy to invest in those assets which you could not. But take it as a magnifying thing to an investment class which is much more expensive. Okay, and then tokenization makes a lot of sense. Because we would say, $1 million, I can buy it, that's not a problem. But there are a lot of people who cannot even afford $1 million. So you're making it easy, accessible for people who are not bankable today, who cannot invest today, and that's why you're bringing more people to the investment arena and ecosystem as well. So that's the beauty about tokenization.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Walid. Regarding other industries like healthcare system or other industries, other than the real estate, how they are affected by blockchain?
So far, it's not all industries being affected, but it will come. So, like as I said, the adoption is growing, and government is helping in this. There is another factor also, like in the IFC court for the market asset bill, they implemented new rules, and then this is helping also because, we are in the third generation now in UAE. So this is helping in other people, other industries to be part of this, industry. So, even a few hours ago, the Council of AI and Advanced Technology now is headed by Sheikh 𝗙𝗃. Imagine in a country like a deputy ruler, he's the head of this council. The next to him is the Crown Prince Sheikh Khaled. So this is how the government is helping the people and advising them to be in this direction. So I can see it coming in the commodities. I can see it coming in the healthcare, definitely, because there's already advanced, in healthcare itself, industry. So it's matching. There is only one disadvantage about this, there is no room for errors. So when you do any transaction or any action like this, you cannot withdraw back. So the decentralized finance is important, but it has also the other sides, which is disadvantage. So I just repeat what Mr. Maher said. You need to be there, but for all the family offices, you're already in risk when you are doing this, digital asset management. So you don't want to do a double risk by hiring unprofessional people or people without experience about that. There's many people claiming that they know about this market. So you need to find the right people and the right team, so at least you minimize the risk. You don't only want risk, this industry. So thank you.
Thank you for the advice. Mr. Maher, what's the role of ESG in such...
Before that, on blockchain, probably flash out. The entire government services of divided models in blockchain, by the way. If you did not know that, you know now. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's any government service you have, we have about 1975 government services. All of them are on blockchain. Not now, for the last 4 or 5 years, by the way. So today, when you want to actually sell any car, the moment the car comes into the country, it's on a blockchain. So they know the history of this vehicle, what's going to happen to it, the moment it changes hands. Your issuance of certificate, it's whether education certificate, and you were in the Ministry of Education before, they are on blockchain, by the way. They're not a normal system. If you go to, for example, your visa issuance today, it's completely on blockchain. That's why it is so seamless. You issue your title deed, or your even rental contract on the Dubai Land Department. It is on blockchain. That's why you're getting it completely automated. So everything you see in the government service today, the 1975, they're all on blockchain stuff. So we are far ahead. The last organization I was at, we had 14,000 staff. It's a financial institution. We instituted money transfers in 2014 on blockchain. And because of that, our transfers, now if you do a foreign internal transfer in the country, it's for 0 amount. And we use the USB to increase our people. So the blockchain has integrated quite a lot, but people don't know about it. We're actually working on a project, which is for carbon credit. We're going to build it on a blockchain. And there are recent use cases for it, so that's why we're building it. Going back to ESG, now, sometimes it's an oxymoron. For me, it was an oxymoron because I also work with the digital economy and work with the circular economy. Sit in the council over here and help them over here. And we know technology takes a lot of energy, right? So basically, you're emitting a lot of emission, a lot of greenhouse gas emission. So how do you keep in your mind that the ESG part of it? One, you need to make sure the solution we're using, whether it's for mining or cryptos or even for blockchain technologies, that there's a lot, the energy resources we're using are renewable from that side. Now that's why if you look at it globally now, all the big 7 tech terms that we have today, all of them are heavily investing in the SMRs, the specialized model with a small modular of nuclear plant. because the traditional way will never be enough for them. I'm not talking about traditional nuclear plant. Those are, to be honest with you, okay, they're there, but they're not going to stay there for long because they're dangerous in nature. The operation, managing that thing is very expensive. So the SMRs are much, much more safer, and there are enough cases out there. For example, there's a company called USNC. They work with the Canadian government. We as a government, I took them to the government, we signed an MOU with them, so they're going to be building up also SMRs over here. They're ultra safe. So the example is, you can actually put a cylinder 6x4 meter in the ground, and you can fire up, electricity-wise, by the way, 25,000 houses for 25 years, and you don't see the map because it's on the ground. The moment a cylinder is about to be over, a truck will come, like the kind of cylinder you get. They'll remove that, and they'll put another cylinder, and off you go for another 25 years. So they're that safe. They're ultra safe nuclear plants out there. So you need to make sure that whenever you talk about technologies, you need to bring that element of renewable energy. The people use, some people in some part of the world, they misuse the people, the laborers, or I would say, for example, even the engineers. So you need to make sure that we are ethical in our practices, and that's right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Maher. Mr. Allen, I want an advice about stablecoin, so other than digital currencies that you know. How do you advise us to use stablecoin in our investment?
Yeah, look, I think there's a place for everything, right? And to the extent that, you know, look, I'm not a huge fan of stablecoin that is literally just transforming one asset to another. That doesn't solve a fundamental problem, right? Getting an asset to just dress up as another asset, to me, doesn't solve the problem. Does it, I'm going to use that concept again, does it help me with diversification? Does it help me with ease of access to the underlying asset, maybe through some standardization, etc.? Does it provide me with a better return profile? Meaning, am I able to, through, say, tokenization, reach through to the front and define and specify what's going to be attached to my, say, Series 1 offering, right? And, for instance, can I implement modalities to ensure that I have asset quality all the way through? Stablecoins, to me, while they're interesting, they're a novelty, I look forward to, it's sort of like the evolution of a market, isn't it? Right? So a stable coin just based off a very simple, very plain asset retransformation isn't interesting. What I do believe is interesting if it actually solves an investment problem or an originator problem, right? Where you're, as an originator, right? I've really focused a lot on investors because a lot of you here are investors, but on the originator side of things, they want return certainty. They want as easy a way to dispose of the asset as possible. So having embedded pricing, having a place for that asset to go a priori, knowing that I'm originating to a given box that's all digital, that helps me solve a number of problems from an asset origination perspective right out of the gate. And tokenization is one way, it's not the only way, but it's one way to solve a lot of those fundamental problems. And if I can do that, I've got a modality that allows me to sort of pull assets and move assets, depending on push assets, depending upon what side of the supply chain.
Okay, is there any other solutions that you would like us to mention also other than stablecoin, tokenization, digital assets?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think
the DeFi.
Yeah, I think you just talked about the use case that you described quite nicely with regard to solving fundamental technology issues around how do you deliver services in the most efficient way possible, and the secret sauce being, how do I do it in a way that's completely seamless but provides you with all of the great things that the blockchain provides you. I think you can do a really great job.
I think DeFi is very important. If you look at today globally, you still have about 2 to 3 billion people who don't have access to funds. We can have a couple of minutes, right? So they cannot borrow. The fundamental problem when people are not bankable, that means they're not part of the financial system. And that's a problem. You're not really equitable in that case. That's one. Second, The challenging with the biggest segment of the economy is the SMEs. SMEs supposed to be, I think, between 60 to 90% of an economy from a GDP perspective. In UAE, it's about 70%. If they don't have access to funds, what should they do? Because they're not bankable, most of them, because they are really risk and all the things. That's why the use case was when blockchain was created. Yes, it was created because of the Bitcoin, but the beautiful thing that came out afterwards, it became a platform to provide you with the finances. So now you have an access to finances from an alternative route, which you cannot access the banking sector itself. So those are one of the important, I would say, aspects of blockchain and the new things coming up, which is decentralized finance, so you can access finance easily.
Telecom protocols that will allow edge computing, so you don't send you don't use the compute power on the data center, but you will use it in the room, for example, if we would have an edge here. Obviously, everything that would be in relation to the chips that will be more eco-sustainable, heating less, etc. So if digital assets are a bit scary, and they might be, I also think there is also the ecosystem that is much more fundamental and important for sustaining these developments.
And even the applications like the so-called AI, which will actually power all these things. If you want, I can give you free stocks which you can track and look at them, how they're actually performing very well, because they will actually power up all these technologies. So layer 1 and chain 1, layer 2, they're working fantastically. All the other systems who are supporting this layer 1, layer 2 as well.
I would just throw out there that to the extent that there are kind of like known technology or algorithmic solutions, kind of parametric solutions, where there's sort of like a formula, that's one aspect of things. The other aspect of things is what I would call non-parametric, or what you guys would call AI solutions, where the machine comes up with a solution. Look, from an investment perspective, what I would argue is they are essential to sort of the future. They're essential to things like, for instance, tokenization, something that I fundamentally focused on in terms of what I do. At the end of the day, right, and I had this conversation with one of the other panelists who was on here earlier, it seems to me that AI ultimately will create a lot of efficiency, but will ultimately sort of converge to a very skinny margin solution. At the end of the day, right, creating end-to-end solutions, right, where you're solving a number of business problems, not just implementing AI, but solving asset gathering, asset sourcing, asset distribution in a continuous channel. That's how you create real value. AI is a tool, but it must be applied as part of an overall value proposition to create and drive value.
Thank you so much. Mr. Walid, would you like to add something?
I just want to share one, for the movie industry, they started already this tokenization, and then attended one of these panels, and we're just hearing them about them like within a few months, in one Bollywood movie and another one in Hollywood. So if it works well, I believe that will be very trending, because it's not profitable in some countries, and in some other countries, it makes good money. So, and this is helping people just to share part of their money in the big movie or something like this. So it's something really interesting.
Yeah, there's no edge for imagination, actually.
Yeah, and in indirect fund, this is one of the tools of it's part of it. So either it's in the movie industry or in any other industry. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Any question from the audience? Okay, thank you so much. It was really very interesting conversation.